according to the new study, men experience a blow to their self-esteem when their female partners experience success. Now, researchers found that women's success also negatively impacts how men view the future of their relationship. Now, this study was, of course, done by somebody named Shigehiro Oishi and Kate Ratliff, and it involved 5 different experiments that gauged how partner success impacted men's and women's implicit and explicit self-esteem. According to one of the researchers, quote, "There is an idea that women are allowed to go bask in the reflected glory of her male partner and to be the woman behind the successful man, but the reverse is not true for men." It found that in cases of when a woman outperformed her male partner in social or in intellectual tasks, men registered a dip in their implicit self-esteem, meaning they didn't report feeling insecure to researchers, but negative feelings and low self-esteem were nonetheless registered on word association and other tests used to gauge unspoken attitudes and feelings. Thoughts?
So wait, did you say you don't believe the study? You don't think it's true?
I believe it to a point. I think it seems like it's really too general for me.
That's what I was going to say. I think that it's a little too generalized, but at the same time, I think probably the majority of the time this is true, and
right.
it's it's because of our social constructs. It's because that we've been geared in a culture that expects the woman to be somewhat subservient, to be somewhat background, and the man is expected to be the rock and expected to be the primary financial caregiver, the one who brings home the bacon, so to speak, the one who's in charge, the one who's the head of the household, the one who's the boss, you know. And if he doesn't hold to all of the typical stereotypical standards, then he is deemed weak or incompetent somehow, and he's emasculated. So I think that many times it is true, but at the same time, I also believe there are a lot of, you know, more socially evolved men out there, you know, like you, Jeff, who wouldn't even imagine thinking less of himself or making his wife feel, you know, guilty for succeeding and or achieving something that might be considered more than you or whatever.
Yeah, see, this is interesting, and I think we might even have one of the better segments now, because I think we might have a slight disagreement here. So first of all, let me just say I 100% believe the study, because I think the study is explicitly saying not necessarily that, you know, the guy will be a typical douchebag and, like, act on those feelings, but I definitely think it's true that they would have the feelings of inadequacy. And
subconsciously.
Right, and I think that gets to a bigger question, and to branch off one of the points that you said before. Look, I don't know if I buy 100% the argument that, you know, societal roles, the typical feminine role and the typical masculine role, I don't know if I buy that they are 100% social constructs. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm also not saying the opposite. I'm not like a dingbat conservative who's like, yeah, a man does a man's job and a woman does a woman's job.
Go make me a sandwich.
Make me a sandwich. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that, well, obviously within a society, women should have all the same equal rights as men. They should get, I mean, we should have passed a bill a long time ago that grants equal pay for equal work, because women make 77 cents to a man's dollar. But I don't think that if a man feels inadequate in those situations because a woman, his wife, for example, does better than him financially or whatever the case is, I don't know if that's necessarily irrational. I think that there might be something biologically where a man says, look, I'm supposed to be a leader, you know, I have higher levels of testosterone. My role is actually to go out there and to be the breadwinner. And what I'm saying is I don't know if it's 100% a societal expectation or if there's also some sort of natural biological aspect of that as well. What do you guys think?
I don't believe in a biological aspect of it. I believe that it's all based sociological.
100% environment and culture, nothing biological about it?
Yes.
So let me ask you this, because this is where I think I would disagree, because I've heard people make this argument. Now, nobody's arguing that there shouldn't be 100% equality from the law in an advanced society, which obviously I agree with and any rational person would agree with, but do you think that there are literally no differences between men and women?
Oh, good God, there are differences.
No, I believe there's a lot of differences.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Okay,
there are lines, though. I don't think that they're. I don't believe in the biological predisposition of leadership specifically.
Neither do I. Biological differences, of course, there's biological differences, but biological social differences, no. I believe that they're pretty much solid social issues, and you know, we're not born fully developed, you know, and we develop in the womb as well. So I think that like addiction, people predisposed to addiction, it's not is there. Well, there are studies that show that like a woman, if she's starving and needy during pregnancy, the child is prone to, you know, have certain kinds of addiction, and that makes sense, you know. But I don't think that you're necessarily programmed to want to lead, or well, you might be programmed to want to lead, but I don't think you're necessarily programmed differently as leaders and followers. I think that's more of a social issue, and it comes, you know, straight from a young age and from parental. I think it's cognitive, and that cognitive, you know, comes from, you know, your beginning environments. Before you can even speak a language, you start picking up cognitive things, and those are issues that you start picking up socially, you know, before you're even fully developed.
Hey Jeff, where was the study done? I'm curious. What country was it done in?
I believe it was done here in the United States.
Okay, it was done in the U.S. See, this is interesting because I think we actually have a way of determining what's the truth, in the sense that is it something that's biological that a man would feel inferior or inadequate in that situation, or is it something that's a social construct and something that's more environmental? Because if you were to do the same study in a much more advanced, when it comes to gender politics, in a society that's more advanced. So, for example, if you go to, I don't know, Denmark or Sweden or Switzerland or something, and I don't know specifically if those are the best examples, I'm just shooting from the hip here, but if in that place you do the same study and it turns out that men do not have a feeling of inadequacy if their counterpart does better, their significant other does better, then it is 100% correct that you guys are right. It is definitely a social construct. It does come from our nurture and not our nature. It does come from our culture. But I'm curious because, again, I'm not fully convinced. I think you guys have swung me a little bit in the sense that I lean towards agreeing with you that it is more from society than from, you know, something inherent or something biological. But let me just say, I wouldn't be all that surprised if even in a very advanced, when it comes to gender politics society, the man would still feel somewhat inadequate if his female counterpart is doing better financially.
I understand where you're coming from, and I think that would be an excellent experiment to
I agree.
Kind of round out the debate and figure it out.
I'm trying to figure out how I would feel in that situation, and I just flat out, I just can't give you an answer. I literally don't know. And let me give you one example that's somewhat similar to this. So I always felt like when I took a female out on a date and I paid for her a movie or something or dinner, I always felt like I wanted to pay for it. And I was like, no, I'm paying for it, right? Now, the question is that something that was just from the culture I was raised in, or was that something that's more like in my nature, like, yeah, I'm a man, I got to do what I got to do, right? And I don't know what the answer is. I genuinely don't know. And I'm trying to think if a woman I was dating said, hey, look, you know, I'm making $100,000 now. Sorry, Mr. 35. I don't know how I feel. I mean, I'd like to think, since I like to think I'm a good lib, that I'd be like, all right, honey, great. I feel awesome. Whatever. But there's a possibility I might be like, fuck,